The first thing that I saw that jumped out at me about the whistleblower report, right, which was released, I think, on September 16th, shortly after the second attempt on Trump's life. There's still people out in the field reporting on what's happening. But one of the things that I noticed that was right up near the top of the list of issues is the Secret Service's Counter Surveillance Division. They're supposed to perform threat assessments of the event site. They didn't perform a typical site evaluation here, and they weren't present on the day of the rally. Now, I have heard, Pete, and I'm sure you've talked to people who have been involved in the periphery or directly involved, whatever. I've talked to people that I know, and they've said that they've had events at this site before that Secret Service has run, let's say, security for. So they kind of defaulted to, we're going to do what we did last time type of mentality. That's troubling. And here's an example of that, right? So I have a job that I do for the state part-time. And one of my responsibilities, it's at sporting events. One of my responsibilities is ensuring the safety of the participants in the event. And there's doctors on staff, right? There's paramedics on staff. There's 2 ambulances standing by. There's venue security that's coordinated with. These venues don't change. It's the same venues. We're always at the same venues. So when we show up there, we don't say, hey guys, we just did this last week, last Sunday here. It's going to be the same thing. You guys know what to do. No, we go through each step. It's almost like a pilot checking off, looking at his checklist, and you do a walkthrough each and every time with everybody that's involved. And you know what? You'd be surprised how often you find out, okay, there's a gate that's closed on this parking lot now that wasn't closed before. What are we going to do about that? Or there's a door here that's closed now that's locked, and there's not even a door handle on it anymore. What happened? What I'm saying is there's things that were taken for granted, complacency here. They just assumed things would be done the same as they always were. And also, I feel like that doesn't take into consideration the threat. It's almost like we have a venue and the security program is based on the venue rather than on the protectee and the threat level to the protectee. Is there something to that, do you think? Or is this just plain and simple complacency?
I think it's both, actually. Look, to your point, complacency kills. And in this instance, it almost killed the current nominee for the Republican Party and a former president. And it certainly killed a gentleman firefighter that was sitting in the crowd. Yeah, you're supposed to go through the same thing. It's funny in ATF, like what we used to hate was when we would get operational plans. Maybe it was the 3rd or 4th buy into a case, right? And you would see that it was cut and pasted from the previous plan rather than just going over the whole thing again. And again, to your point, things change. The other thing is, yeah, they'd worked this venue many times, and maybe they had worked with these departments many times. But I mean, departments hire new people move on. So you may be dealing with folks, even though you've dealt with a certain police department 20, 30 times, nothing says that the people that are involved from that police department aren't new or don't, and so, I mean, there's a lot of things where they drop the ball. There weren't meetings where they should have had meetings. You've seen this. And look, I'm not going to lie and say that I haven't seen it within my own former organization, ATF. Everyone who's participating in an operation is supposed to sit there for a briefing. Correct? Now, if you were not there for that briefing, there were times we would send people home. Hey, you weren't at the briefing. Get out of here. I mean, it's provided we had the assets. If not, then we would have a second briefing to make sure everybody was caught up. And then after the operation, we would have a post-op briefing to talk about what went wrong. Here, there were discussions amongst people where, well, we kind of, we asked for help and we passed information on to others, and we asked. So there were people who never spoke to people from the Secret Service that were there. And then the Secret Service also, and this has been discussed ad nauseum, they never bothered to check that some of the things that were critically important to cover were covered. So there were a lot of assumptions made, and it almost cost, like, the nation dodged a bullet, but we almost didn't.